So I initially was getting my doctorate in clinical psychology, and my dad passed away. And so I kind of shifted gears. I had a lot of time to kind of reflect. I started volunteering with wild animals and particularly wild baby bunnies, and doing agility with my dog, and realized that really what I want to do with my life is work with animals. So I decided to get in the grooming industry. I went a little bit of a non-traditional route, and I actually bought a business first. So I was not a groomer, and I became an owner of a grooming salon, which I know everyone does not particularly like once you are a groomer. But as soon as I got in there and started being around everyone, I got hooked, and I started bathing. And I was running the front desk, but then I was also bathing the dogs, drying the dogs, learning everything about prep work. For the first 2 years of my business, I treated myself as the way I would treat somebody that I'm trying to bring up in the industry. And I just bathed, dried dogs, and then worked the front desk. And I had a few other very talented groomers who I also learned from. And then I slowly started doing things like paw pads, rounding feet, doing those kind of things. And then eventually I started grooming. And I mean, ever since day one in the shop, I've been obsessed with everything dog grooming. I've gone to conventions. I try to seek out learning opportunities. I've taken online classes from different groomers. Every time there's a convention, I always take business classes. I take grooming classes. I just try to soak up as much knowledge as I can. I've been, grooming now for over 5 years and just love it. About 3 years ago, I started doing creative. When I got Zoe, I had a groomer who wanted to do creative, and I was like, we have an older clientele. I don't know if they're going to go for it. She actually, when I went out of town, put a shamrock on a dog for St. Patrick's Day. And so I realized, okay, maybe some of our clients would be interested. And so we started doing ears and tail here and there. And I got Zoe to learn the craft on. And I also approached learning creative in the same way I approached grooming, where I just tried to soak up as much knowledge as I could from people who've come before me. So the inspiration behind Zoe, the first time I did her, she was 6 months old, and I started with just the purple on all her paws. It just kind of grew from there, because I would just watch her around my house. I would start thinking about different things that I wanted to do with her. The first big design that I did was for 4th of July. I did a red, white, and blue bomb pop tail, and then blue feet, and then red and blue ears, I think. And after that, I got really hooked, and I just wanted to try different things. And so it was kind of all right, now I have this red and blue on her, so how am I going to change it? Once you start getting into creative, you realize that you can't just totally jump from one thing to another. You always have to kind of think about the next step. So I had the red, white, and blue on her, and I was trying to think what closely matches that. When you're looking at the color wheel, what are the next colors that would be something I could transition her to? So I went for sunset colors. So we had a sunset yellow, orange, and red for a little bit. And then after that, I had a creative groomer that was coming out to work with me, work with the people in my salon. And I really wanted, at the time she had a big jacket. I was really inspired by the Disney dog, Georgette, I think, that had the jacket, and then I wanted it to all be pink. That's kind of where her look first started. I started thinking okay, I'm gonna do the ears with pinks and purples and blues, and I'm hoping that it's gonna cover up the yellow, orange, and reds, and it did. And that was the first time that I did this part. So she's had this pink since she was 8 or 9 months, which is pretty challenging because her head changed a lot. And so keeping it so it still works. And those are the other things you kind of have to think about with creative grooming, and your inspiration is that you're dealing with different muscles on the dog's body, and you're transitioning colors or you're transitioning shapes. And so how can I like make that work to form something new? And that's been one of my biggest challenges when I'm trying to like maintain her look and her signature colors, but then also try to do something different on her and be able to have it all be like a complete design and make sense. I get inspired by like the changing and like what's going to work with the way she's looking at the moment, and how can I then bring in maybe other things that are going on like a holiday. The hearts were for Valentine's Day, so when she could go to the children's hospital for Valentine's Day, she looked very festive. And I like to tell all the kids that she has a lot of love to give, and that's why she has her big heart. And then this kind of just grew out of that initial design to have all the different hearts pop out and everything. As a creative groomer and a business owner, that to me, it's really important that we hold dear that we get to work with live animals that are sometimes our own, but are sometimes customers' dogs, and that we have to hold ourselves to an even higher standard as a creative groomer. If we think at all that a dog is not a good fit, we should absolutely choose that dog over business, money, getting the opportunity to die a dog. It 100% has to be about the dog. And if they have skin issues, if they're old, if they don't like grooming, we just have to say no, because we have to protect our industry, because there's so many people out there that don't understand it and think that we are hurting the dogs as it is. I'm just very passionate about, recognizing that and then taking it even more seriously, that those dogs we just don't do. We just take dogs that enjoy grooming, feel like it's bonding time. Like for Zoe, I think she thinks she's getting a massage. She's very calm. I think she just wants to be with me, and so she doesn't mind it. I just take pride in the fact that those are my values, and I hope that for the other creative groomers out there that we all are mindful of this. So the future for me and Zoe with creative grooming, I feel like we're a team and that we get to like demonstrate like a positive side. When she's on my table, I typically don't even have her like with like a lead over her or anything. She's just calm on the table and stands there by her own free will. So I feel like she is a really good role model to kind of show the general public that what we're doing can be positive and it can be gentle and kind to the dogs. She's my partner in business, in traveling and teaching, and I hope to be more part of teaching and getting to meet all different groomers. Ideally around the world would be amazing. I just envision us getting to bring creative grooming to the general public and get to inspire tomorrow's creative groomers, in that this is something to work towards, but it's also not necessarily extreme creative. It can be like for the everyday, and your dog can go out to dinner with you. You don't have to necessarily like spray her hair or anything. She looks like a completed piece. I tell people like we spread joy. Zoe is joy. You get to go out in public and make people happy, and that is worth everything to me.